Trump administration officials are promising a Justice Department investigation following the disruption of a church service Sunday in St. Paul, Minnesota by anti-ICE protesters. This comes as the Pentagon prepares to deploy active-duty military troops to the Twin Cities. Chief Correspondent Jonathan Hunt is in Minneapolis tonight.
Dozens of protesters poured into the city's church in St. Paul in the middle of a service Sunday, shouting anti-ICE slogans, apparently driven by a belief that one of the church leaders is also an ICE agent. The protest sparked outrage among the congregation and fury among Trump administration officials who quickly promised a full investigation. Attorney General Pam Bondi writing on X, quote, "Attacks against law enforcement and the intimidation of Christians are being met with the full force of federal law." Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's office released a statement saying, quote, "While people have a right to speak out, he in no way supports interrupting a place of worship." In the wake of the ongoing clashes between protesters and federal agents who are tasked with enforcing immigration laws, 1,500 troops with the 11th Airborne have been given ready-to-deploy orders should President Trump invoke the Insurrection Act and send in the military to restore order. The president most recently said he didn't think that was necessary yet. The lead Border Patrol agent on the ground says federal agents have the situation under control.
He's spot on when he says right now it's not needed. We've got the situation under control, several thousand law enforcement agents here, and we're conducting that Title VIII immigration mission unabated.
Local leaders in Minneapolis, meantime, have decried the suggestion of military involvement as unconstitutional.
Invaded, under siege, occupied. Use whatever word or superlative that you want to attach, but the bottom line is what is taking place is designed to intimidate. It is not fair, it's not just, and it's completely unconstitutional.
DHS announced tonight that they have arrested a total of some 3,000 illegal immigrants in Minnesota, including over the weekend several convicted of crimes such as homicide and sexual assault. Meantime, several dozen protesters remain here at the federal building, protesting the actions of federal agents, but they are staying behind the newly erected barriers put here by the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department. It is a simple and effective so far measure that raises the obvious question: why didn't local law enforcement do this last week?
And overseas now, where two high-speed trains collided in Spain, killing at least 40 and injuring more than 150 people. One train was traveling from Malaga to Madrid when it derailed, then crossed over the adjacent track and hit the other train. Rescue crews are still combing through the wreckage, and officials say the death count could still rise. Our foreign correspondent Tom Soufi Burridge is near the scene with more.
Yeah, Spain's Prime Minister declaring those 3 days of national mourning, and the death toll spiking overnight. And the sense we're getting from officials here is that the death toll could sadly rise again. There is still a very sensitive and complicated recovery operation at the wreckage of those two high-speed trains in what the photos and videos suggest is a very remote area of Andalusia here in southern Spain. Spain is underlining that at this point in time they have no indication what caused this crash. Spain's transport minister saying the accident happened on a straight stretch of track that had undergone serious renovation work, and which only ended about 8 months ago. And also the train which initially derailed, well, that was a relatively new train, the transport minister said, and it had also passed its last control check. Officials are saying very little about the potential cause of this. To be honest, in that recent interview with local reporters, the Spanish transport minister was emphasizing time and time again that this, in his words, was a very strange accident. He used the word strange, two different Spanish words which mean strange, multiple times in his talk with reporters, and that is the sense that we're getting at the scene. We're also learning about the injured, more than 40 people still hospitalized, more than 20 of them are said to be in a critical condition.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Monday night. We do begin tonight with this dangerous Arctic blast and the storms triggering major accidents along America's highways, including a massive pileup. More than 100 vehicles involved in this. The images coming in, cars and several tractor trailers caught in a miles-long chain reaction crash on I-196 just outside Grand Rapids, Michigan. Look at this tonight. Nearly a dozen injuries reported, children among the injured. Multiple crashes also reported along the Indiana toll road, cars and trucks colliding, skidding right off the highway there. Drivers facing blinding whiteout conditions from the Dakotas all the way east to Michigan, visibility near zero. A United flight from Chicago to Orlando making a hard landing in strong winds. A front tire falling off, passengers deplaned right there on the runway. And there is brutal cold now sweeping in right behind all of this. Wind chills below zero from Minnesota to the northeast tomorrow morning. The feel-like temperatures below zero for millions, and from Philadelphia to New York City to Boston, it'll feel like single digits. Ginger Z is here, and Stephanie Ramos leads us off with the images already coming in tonight.
Tonight, the harrowing scene in a blinding snowstorm. More than 100 vehicles smashing into each other in a massive chain reaction pileup in Michigan.
It was just semi after semi, either going into the ditch, hitting each other.
The morning commute suddenly turning into a whiteout nightmare on Interstate 196 outside Grand Rapids.
It just happened so fast. It was a white wall, and we just slammed into this woman here.
Nearly a dozen people injured, including children. Drivers rushing to help each other.
We got about 100 cars.
All right.
Up to 40 tractor trailers involved.
We lined up numerous ambulances, numerous school buses to help us transport the stranded.
That brutal Arctic blast now sweeping east, fueling new rounds of heavy lake-effect snow. Near South Bend, Indiana, parts of the busy toll road shut down after multiple crashes. Dangerous driving in Durham, North Carolina, cars sliding out of control. Back-to-back weekend storms leading to white-knuckle driving in St. Louis, this car slamming into a guardrail. The snow and brutal cold stretching as far south as the Florida Panhandle. And in Orlando, a front tire falling off a United flight from Chicago after a hard landing in strong winds.
United Company has been advised we have a tow on the way.
200 passengers forced off onto the runway. Fortunately, no one was hurt. And David, the dangerous conditions that led to this massive pileup in Michigan is expected to hammer the region all week long as that brutal Arctic blast invades the Northeast. David.
So let's get more on this, Stephanie. Thank you. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z with us here on a Monday night. Hi, Ginger.
Hi, David. They've already had more than 9 inches in Walker, Michigan, close to my hometown of Grand Rapids there. And those bands of lake effect are still going. They'll go through about tomorrow morning. And it's really turning on for Erie and Ontario as well. So the Tug Hill Plateau, places like Oswego or Watertown, worried about 4-inch per hour snowfall rates. So it will be all along the Great Lakes as we see this cold air pour over us. By tomorrow morning, it'll feel like 8 below in Pittsburgh. It'll feel like 0 in Albany. It'll feel like single digits from Philadelphia to New York City and Boston. And we don't rebound much in the afternoon, so it's going to stay cold. Now, tomorrow's the coldest of this week, but you have to get used to it because a serious Arctic invasion comes in again by the weekend and early next week, David.
In the meantime, to the tense scene tonight in Minneapolis, 1,500 active duty U.S. troops have now been put on standby to potentially be sent in by President Trump. Demonstrators interrupting a church service where one of the pastors is also an ICE official. The Justice Department tonight saying it will now investigate the protesters. ABC's Matt Rivers from Minneapolis again tonight.
Tonight, 1,500 active duty soldiers are on alert for possible deployment to Minnesota. Those troops just on standby for now. But the city of Minneapolis remains on edge. After anti-ICE protesters disrupted this Sunday service, the Justice Department says it's now investigating. Protesters targeting the church because one of the pastors is also the director of an ICE field office. DHS says roughly 3,000 undocumented immigrants have been arrested during this crackdown in Minneapolis, including violent criminals. Agents storming this home. The family of the man living there says they terrorized his 5-year-old grandson and never asked for ID before pulling him out in his underwear into the bitter cold, releasing him an hour later. DHS says the man, a U.S. citizen, lived with 2 sex offenders they are still looking for. But his family disputes that, saying he only lives with relatives and none are sex offenders. And new tonight, allegations that some detained by ICE were denied access to legal counsel, including protester William Vermi, a U.S. citizen. Seen here being arrested after filming ICE officers right outside his house. He says he was detained for more than 8 hours and not allowed to see an attorney.